Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm really looking forward to this player education session today. I know we have it set up so that you can submit questions in the chat. Couple of things. If you could make sure your questions are relevant for a group forum, that would be great. We'll give you an email address at the end if you have a personal question. And also want to make sure that maybe you jot your questions down as we go and submit them as we get near the end of the presentation, because I'm going to cover a ton of material. And based on a lot of the questions I've seen come through and some of the questions that were submitted with the registration, those will be answered today. So really looking forward to getting through this. I am going to move quickly because there's a lot of material. So bear with me while I go quick, and looking forward to getting this information out there. Alicia, can you advance the slide? So what the NTRP does, it uses your USTA play history and your current match results to generate player dynamic and year-end ratings. It effectively assigns player levels after only a few matches. That's something that's very unique about NTRP, is that it's specially architected to use that information in just a few match results to get a player at their general level. Other tennis rating systems work a little bit differently. So that's something really special about NTRP. And the other thing it does is become more accurate with more match results. That's any math algorithm. The more data it has to work on, the better job it can do in finding the right placement for a player. Go ahead, Alicia. What it does not do. So the results from doing these education sessions, I've heard a lot of questions over the years. So I always modify these slides to reflect some of the things that I've heard. One of the questions I get a lot is, why doesn't the NTRP throw out tanked matches? That's matches where players either cheated, sandbagged, lost on purpose, fill in the term that you use. The reason we don't throw out those matches is because we don't know which ones they are. There is no mathematical definition of a tanked match. If we tried to create a mathematical definition, we would invariably throw out good matches, and we certainly don't want to do that. It is a work in progress. We are always analyzing the data. We're always looking at match results to look for patterns that would enable us to perhaps handle mathematically defined tanked matches differently. There's just not enough consistency in the definition mathematically of a tanked match. So that's why those are not thrown out today. The other thing the NTRP does not do is change dramatically. It's because this would certainly impact our team structure, but also adult levels don't change that dramatically. What we found in trends over time, regardless of age, is that once an adult player is playing tennis, their level is pretty well stabilized for longer periods of time. Whereas with youth, we see a lot more volatility for ups and downs in their ratings. So that's why the ratings are published once a year. Also, keeping in mind, the NTRP was designed specifically to support the USTA League program. So the goal is to get players in a general level of accuracy for a season of play. So we don't need the dramatic changes on a regular basis, because we're really looking at it for a longer term application and general level-based play. The other thing it doesn't do is publish more than once a year. Part of the reason for this is that this would be disruptive for team structure. So if you think about this, if our ratings were being published mid-season, how would we handle that? So it would also change the focus of the role of the rating in the leagues. The role of the ratings is to really help players find their level of play, again, for a season or for a year. And if we were publishing ratings on a regular cadence, that could distract from that a little bit. And it would also be hard to manage some of those changes with our policy and procedures and how we handle things. If a player were to be up out of level, that you can imagine that would cause a lot of distraction, as well as a player that may drop below level, when in reality, we just want to keep the team together and keep them playing through the season. Thank you, Alicia, if you want to advance the slide. How does it work? So for those of you who want to know how the algorithm works, here is the slide where I tell you absolutely everything that I am allowed to tell you without going behind the veil of our proprietary algorithm information. I'm going to go as deep as I can, and I hope this helps. The algorithm looks at a few pieces of data. It looks at the ratings of players before a match takes place. So who's on the court? What were their ratings going into the match? And then the algorithm predicts an outcome. What does it think is going to happen in that match? Then it analyzes the actual outcome of the match, which scores were inputted for those players for that match, and it adjusts the ratings accordingly. It takes 4 matches for a new player 4 matches against an established player, that means a player with a rating, for a new player to start to generate dynamics. So the reason for that is because, as you can see in those first 4 bullet points, the algorithm uses relativity. It bases your rating on who you play. And if you're a brand new player, we just don't know enough about you to use you as an established player against which other players may generate ratings. So after 4 of those dynamics, though, we do know a little bit more about you, and we can start to use your rating as an established player against other players, sorry. And for year end, as long as you've played 3 matches in included play, you will generate a year-end rating. So you don't have to have generated dynamics during the year. If you have played 3 matches in included play, you will receive a year-end rating. I realize that might be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to go a little bit deeper here for just a moment. The dynamics are ratings that are generated on a daily basis. Every night, the calculation pulls in all the results that were entered into TennisLink on a given day. The dynamic rating algorithm churns through those results and assigns a dynamic rating to every player that had participation. The year-end rating is the rating that takes place once a year after national championships are complete, and it doesn't just look at the play that was taking place on that day. That year-end algorithm looks at a variety of things: play history, including the dynamics, other activities. So the year-end algorithm is slightly different from the dynamic. The dynamic is designed to be a daily snapshot of where a player is performing, and it's specifically designed to help us ensure that players are playing in level. I'm going to move into a conversation about DQs in just a few minutes, but that's what we use those dynamic ratings for. So again, daily snapshot, are they at the right level? And again, only producing dynamics when playing against what we call an established player. If you're playing against a brand new self-rated player, you may not generate a dynamic because they don't have a dynamic that tells us what level they are just yet. And that's really to make sure the integrity of the ratings is where it needs to be. Some people have asked if that's a punishment, and it has absolutely nothing to do with punishment. It's about the integrity of the ratings and the integrity of the calculation. And then again, for that year-end rating, that calculation we run once a year after national championships, 3 matches in included play, and you will generate a year-end rating. Play history is included. I get this question a lot. So your previous history in USTA carries forward year over year in the algorithm in certain ways, and that is factored into your rating. It also does look at your partner rating and their status. So if you're a doubles player and you're playing with a brand new player that's self-rated, that could impact when you're earning dynamics, but it does also look at your partner rating as it calculates doubles. That is as much as I can tell you about how the doubles rating algorithm calculates. I get those questions a lot, but I do want to make sure that people understand it is aware that you are playing with a partner that has a particular level or that is self-rated when it's calculating your rating. It does have weighting, so that's a question we get about, does it use weighting to figure different types of results differently? Yes, it does. That's also all I can tell you there. And start rates, the reason I talk about start rates is because we hear this question when players are self-rated, and I actually saw some of these come through with the registrations. If I'm self-rated as a 3.0, for example, what is my start rate? How is the system treating me? Do they treat me like a 2.51? Do they treat me like a 3.0? Actually, the system treats you like a 0. It doesn't know anything about you, so we don't use any number to assign to you as a start rated player. That number, that self-rating value, is only used to determine your eligibility for registration. And from there on out, it's solely up to you and your performance on the court that determines your rating. Included results. There are some myths here around what gets included in a player's rating. It is section specific. So generally speaking, your adult play, so adult 40 and over, 18 and over, 55 and over, are included in your rating for most sections. Other things like tri-level, combo, those do depend on your section. So if you're not sure if you're participating in a league that may or may not be included, please ask your section office. Also, NTRP tournaments. We are moving in a direction where these will be included. no matter what. For 2021, a couple of sections may still be opting out for technical reasons. Ask your section if you are not sure. Mixed results are included only in mixed exclusive ratings. What that means is if a player participates in only mixed play, that's mixed leagues and mixed tournament activity, they will receive an M rating, and that is the algorithm that uses all of their mixed play. If a player plays in addition to mixed play, they will receive a C rating. So those are completely separate data sets. They're separate algorithms, and they are handled separately. They are not mixed together to calculate a rating. Expirations. So players under 60 years of age expire after 3 years of no activity. Players over 60 years of age or self-rated players with no activity will expire after 2 years. Moving up and down with partners, I do get this question a lot. We're partners, why didn't we both move up, or why didn't we both move down? That goes into everything else that I just talked about how it works. The algorithm knows that you have different play. You may have had a different start rate, a different play history. You may have matches that you didn't play together, or maybe one of you also played singles or in a different league. All of that is factored in, and the algorithm calculates everyone as an individual. It doesn't calculate team players as a partner's team. So that's why you may move up and down separately. It does not include, so over here in the light blue, your win-loss record. We get this question a lot. It does not look at your win-loss record. It only uses relativity and prediction to determine a player's rating. It does not credit you for playing up. You must perform at higher levels of play in order for the algorithm to give you a higher dynamic and generate a higher year-end rating. So you can play up, but if you're not performing at a higher level, it will not change your rating. It also, intentional loss does not help the way we think it does. So playing down or losing on purpose, not only does this affect the league, it affects your opponents, and it affects the quality of play of anyone who interacts with you. So it's really important to, if you feel you're not at the right level or you want to keep that rating down, that you talk to a coordinator about it rather than trying to manage your rating by losing on the court, as this has huge impact on other players in the league program.